Hello, we continue on Foundation of Education, and today we are starting the course subject entitled History of Education. In the history of education, we are going to have about 4 modules, and we are going to look in module 1. We are going to look at the uh, ancient civilization, which is Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Then we are going to look at medieval and Renaissance education. Then we are going to look at industrialization and mass education. Then we are going to look at contemporary education. So these are the modules that we are going to look at. So we are starting with module 5, which is introduction and concept of history of education. Uh, the history of education is a vast and fascinating field that spans thousands of years. So when we talk about education has not just started now. Education started some thousands of years. As far as humanity lives, there was a certain education that was being given to children. Now we are talking about the beginning of formal education. So in this formal education, that's where we are tracing also it from thousands of years. So tracing the development of learning and teaching from ancient civilization to modern times. This course explores uh, how societies approached education, what methods and philosophies have been employed, and how education has shaped individuals and communities. So, we are going to look at how education has shaped the communities in the historical context. So, we are going to look at different levels and different stages that education has been developing. So we are going to look at the understanding the history of education and how it will help us appreciate the complexity and nuances of modern education system, informing our approaches to teaching, learning, and education reform. So, if you want to know where we are, we have to know where we are coming from so that we'll be able to know where we are going. So if we are understanding the education, the how education has developed and the history of education, it will help us to know why education is the way it is. So the concept of learning the history of education is number one, to survey and to look at the early beginnings. Education in ancient culture such as Egypt, Greece, Rome, China, and India. So how was education done? Then we are also going to look at philosophical roots of education, which is contributions of influential thinkers like Plato, Aristotle, Confucius, and also Lao Tzu or Laos. We are also going to look at the religious and cultural influences. So mostly education was done or was formulated by religious influence. So how the law of religion, social class, and culture in shaping education. Then we are going to look at industrialization and expansion, how education has expanded, the impact of education in industrialization on education, including compulsory schooling and mass education. So previously, we are in the past, the education was not for everyone. So now we are going to look at how education has become compulsory and where did it start from. And we are going to look at progressive education. So we are going to look at early 20th century movements emphasizing student-centered learning and social reform. So how has education been done in the early 20th centuries? When we talk about early 20th centuries, we are talking about in 19 something. How was it? How education was done, and especially we are going to look at what is called African education, so that we may be able to know how we can be able to craft and how we can be able to transmit our education to them. And we are going to look at contemporary issues, which is the current debates and challenges in education, such as equality, access, and technology integration. And the most interesting thing is that I want us to come and look at it is the technology, how education has been influenced by technology. And I want us, as we said, that understanding what was happening in the past and present, it will be able to help us plan for the future. So now, how do we perceive that education? How is education going to be? So, as we may know that history is a study of the past, present, and future. So, when we talk about education, we are talking about the history of education now, the past, present, and also we are going to look at the future. So, we also look at education theories, which we have talked about, like development of various pedagogical approaches, including behaviorism, constructivism, and critical pedagogy, and which we have also talked about. We will just peruse on this one. Or we are also going to look at policy and reform, which is evaluation of education policies, reforms, and their efforts on teaching and learning. So that is what we are going to look at in the education, and we will look at education in a way that it is going to craft our teaching method, being as the uh, the learners and also the teachers. How are we going to use the education, the history of education, to help us and to craft our education? Thank you so much, and God bless you.